In this video, we're going to talk about some new price estimates for the Steam Machine, knowing how expensive everything is, and we're not going to freak out. After that, we're going to talk about why the Steam Machine won't get canceled. And finally, we got to talk about the new graphics driver coming to SteamOS that's going to be huge for the Steam Machine and potentially the Steam Deck. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about Steam hardware. I hope you are having a great week playing a ton of video games. We are in the living room once again because it is damp as hell in my basement. It is cold. I don't want to be down there. It looks like Silent Hill on the other side of this camera. You might be able to see it in my living room back there, right there. It looks like Silent Hill outside. I don't want to be down there, so we're in the living room. Before we jump into this video's topics, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. I really appreciate it. It helps keep the lights on around here when ad rates are at their absolute lowest. Squarespace wants me to highlight their new feature, Design Intelligence, which takes 2 decades of industry-leading design expertise and combines it with cutting-edge AI tech. Long story short, it makes it really simple for you to create a website that's going to make someone look at it and say, wow, that's a really good looking website. And say the website you want to set up is a storefront. Well, they make that really simple too with Squarespace Payments. You can get up and running in just a few clicks and start accepting payments almost immediately. And using their flexible website templates, you can get your store set up in just a few clicks as well, and it's gonna look amazing. So when you're ready to try out Squarespace, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your website, go to squarespace.com/deckready for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Once again, huge shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Let's get into the first segment here and talk about the new adjusted price of the Steam Machine. So we all know what's going on in the world with the RAM situation, and a lot of websites I think are being egregious with how heavily, I would say, they're reporting this info. They're making it seem like it's going to be a huge apocalypse. And how many times have we gone through this where something seems like it's the end of gaming as we know it, it goes on for a few weeks, and then suddenly there's a new thing to talk about and everyone forgets exactly what they were mad about 2 weeks ago. I'll give you a hint. It happens all the time. It happens like every 2 to 3 months. There's a new thing to freak out about. And I really can't believe people actually think the Steam Deck OLED is going to be gone forever. You got to take a chill pill, guys. I would recommend staying off of Reddit because they are in full-on doomerism about this stuff. The Steam Deck OLED's going to come back in stock. They just got to make sure they can sell it at the price they're currently selling at. And I think that's a lot better of an alternative than, you know, raising the price for everyone, especially the people who waited 4 years, because this late in the life cycle, there's no reason to do a price increase, especially with, you know, eventually the Steam Deck 2 on the horizon. So to calm everyone down, I went ahead, I did some research, I did some math to try and figure out what the new price window of the Steam Machine is. And honestly, it's not that bad. So the real expensive components in the Steam Machine are not the CPU or GPU. Valve definitely got a deal on those because both of them are parts that AMD just had sitting around on a shelf. The CPU and GPU combo is basically on par with the PS5, which is like over 5-year-old tech at this point. So you don't got to worry about the prices increasing on that. The GPU shortage that everyone is talking about right now is really only affecting high-end cards. So like 5080s, 5090s, to some extent the 5070, you know, not the 5060 or 4060 or the stuff that 70% of the people on Steam are buying. When it comes to CPUs, they're not really all that in demand, but like I just looked and the 9800 X3D is about the same price I paid for it back in August or September. So things are looking good there. Where things are really going to be a problem is with the RAM, because Valve chose to use RAM that's for laptops. And no matter what, like even when RAM was at a normal price, laptop RAM was always more expensive than desktop RAM because they have to pack it into a much smaller size chip. So those have gone up in price a little bit more than regular old RAM that you would put in a gaming desktop. So when it comes to RAM, the price is increasing like $150 to $200, which is a lot, and that's going to be the biggest problem. When it comes to SSDs, it's a little bit different. Like SSDs are expensive right now. Some of them are inflated, definitely, just looking at the prices that they're selling at. But people are kind of forgetting that SSDs really became super popular with console gamers when the PS5 launched. And ever since that happened, they've been falling in price dramatically year over year. So like you were never paying MSRP for an SSD for your PS5, for your desktop PC. And while the Steam Deck size SSDs, the 2230 drives, launched at a pretty high price of over $250, even the price on those has been falling steadily over the past few years. So while the price on SSDs is definitely going up compared to where it was a few months ago, where it's at currently is right around MSRP. In some cases, it's a little bit over the old MSRP. In some cases, it's spot on, but like, I don't think that's yet going to be a massive factor in terms of the Steam Machine's price. So going back to my original prediction, going off of the spec sheet, like the part list of costs that Tom from Moore's Law is Dead got his hands on, knowing that the added up cost for Valve would be $425 before all the prices went up, I was at like $500 to $600 for the 512 gig version. I think now I'd be at more $650, $700, and then for the 2 terabyte version, we're gonna bump it up to like $800. Now, at that price, I'm still in. I gotta be honest, I'm in at $1,000. I care more about the form factor and what it can do with SteamOS, like with the Bluetooth radio. Just using a small form factor PC on my TV, I'm in at $1,000. Once you start getting over 1,000, that's where I'm out, because you can just build or buy a better PC, even with the increased cost at that point. I already have a much better PC spec-wise than what's in the Steam Machine, and if they launch it over $1,000, I just know eventually prices are going to come down and I'll feel like a sucker for buying in as an early adopter. But I still don't think there's a risk of it going over $1,000, because the main thing people are forgetting when they talk about this stuff is that the whole point of the Steam Machine is to grow SteamOS, right? Like Valve is making money hand over fist on Steam. The hardware is more of a vehicle for SteamOS. They want people to move over to Linux from Windows. It's an insurance plan in case Windows wakes up tomorrow, decides to go full AI, stops you from downloading apps, and goes more for like a business sort of outlook where they want to sell to AI data centers and people who are using AI. If that happened tomorrow, Valve wants to make sure there's an insurance plan there, because it almost happened in the past when Windows was trying to get everyone on Windows 8. They were like, yeah, we're going to have our own app store. We're going to stop you from downloading third-party apps, aka Steam. And Valve didn't want a future reality where, you know, Steam lived or died by the app store that Microsoft set up's rules. So they started working on SteamOS in the first place. That's still the goal, right? Like they want to grow SteamOS. And the best way to do that is to release entry-level hardware that shows other manufacturers how it's done, like they did with the Steam Deck, right? Like we got the ROG Ally, the Ally X, and then eventually the Legion Go S with SteamOS. The Legion Go 2 is coming out with SteamOS. That looks awesome as well. I foresee the same thing happening, just a little bit more inflated with the Steam Machine, right? Like if their goal is to grow SteamOS, they're going to hit a wall. They can't raise the price to an insane level because they're going to hit a point where it hurts SteamOS's growth and they can't afford to do that. So if they have to take a little bit of money on the chin or sell it at break-even prices for the launch period and cross their fingers that the prices will come down for the components that are inflating the price, I fully believe they will do that, because as someone who's run this channel for like 4 years, whenever Valve has a fork in the road where they can be evil or, you know, neutral at best, they always go for neutral at the very worst, right? Like they don't do things that are technically considered evil, especially in the gaming ecosystem. So I've increased my official prediction from around 700 to 750 to 750 to 800 for the 512 and 2 terabyte models. I still think that's being a little bit wishful, but that's what I gotta be. Everyone else is being a pessimist. I'm not a pessimist. I'm an optimist. Is it pessimist? No, it's pessimist. Everyone else is being a pessimist. I'm being an optimist. There you go. I nailed the sentence. We can move on now. And what we're moving on to is the second topic, which is me convincing you that the Steam Machine is not going to be canceled. Like, I understand how this hysteria is happening, because if you go look at Reddit, you look at Twitter, the people who engagement farm because they get paid out on Twitter are making it seem like, you know, this is a disaster. This is an apocalyptic event where all the hardware that Sony's planning, all the hardware that Nintendo's planning, all the hardware that Xbox and Valve are planning, it's all going to disappear and never going to come out. And I understand why people kind of latch on to that, because when you see something that feels plausible, you start to think it's possible and then you start to think it's reality. I'm not blaming anyone for feeling that way, but it's just not going to happen. There's definitely already at least the launch window's worth of Steam Machines already made. All of these problems with the delays and everything like that, they're not because they can't make Steam Machines for launch. They probably have at least the first year already produced. It's after that, right? Like they got to look into the future, which, you know, is impossible, and figure out if and when these RAM prices are going to come down. Or they got to figure out whether or not Chinese RAM companies are going to start flooding the marketplace, because, you know, that's already kind of happening. Apple and Dell are moving to use manufacturers of RAM over in China, which honestly could be a good thing. Like overall, politically speaking, I know people are scared of situations like that, but when you're in a dire straits moment like this, where you've got 3 companies basically holding one key component to consoles and PCs hostage, it's not bad when you get flooded with a dramatically cheaper product that other companies will start using. So that could start happening. They have to start predicting this stuff and figure out when to launch the Steam Machine to use use the allotment that they already have as long as possible, so they don't have what's going on with the Steam Deck OLED right now happen with the Steam Machine. So that's how I see the situation. I've done a lot of research on it. I've done 3 videos a week for a long time now. I read about this stuff every single day. I'm not just like talking out of my butt here. I'm 99% positive the Steam machines that they want to sell for launch are already produced, and what they're worried about is being able to continue to sell it at the price that they want to hit. So will it not come out? No, I don't think that's a possibility. Will it be delayed past June? I'm 50-50 on that at this point, just because things are like crazy right now. It's impossible to predict what will happen tomorrow, let alone within the next 4 months, but I'm still pretty confident, like 50% confident that we are going to hit the before June release date. We all just got to chill out. I know people are excited, but like I've seen a lot of reactions like, I'm done. They delayed it. I'm out. I was a fan of Valve. I'm no longer a fan of Valve. I don't understand that sentiment. I get that negativity sells, but like if they released it right now, it would be more expensive than really anyone would be willing to pay. So I'm fine with them waiting. And if this is your only option to get into PC gaming, there are still deals out there. It's not near as dramatic as everyone's making it out to be. I literally like less than a month ago saw on Micro Center a deal for an Alienware PC with a really good Intel chip, a 5080, 32 gigs of RAM, and a decent case. It was less than $3,000. I think like the sticker price they were selling it for was $2,600. I drove out there immediately expecting it to be sold out. They had like 30 in stock. So like if you pay attention, there are good deals to be found. You just have to try a little bit harder than we've been used to for the past 5 years. But like, we all got to take a deep breath. We all got to chill out. I think this thing's coming out. In fact, I'm pretty positive it's coming out. Don't let the engagement farming on Reddit, Twitter, and everywhere else get you down. I know it's a bummer situation, but there's a positive way to look at everything, and that's how I'm choosing to look at this situation. And speaking of positive news, we're going to round out the video with a news story about the new Mesa driver, which Valve has privately used engineers to make much better than the last version, and we shouldn't have to wait long for it to come to SteamOS because, like I just mentioned, Valve engineers had direct input, so they've already been working on it. The reason this new Mesa driver is worth talking about is because it improves ray tracing performance on AMD cards by a lot. I don't know the exact percentage, but I tried my Bazite PC before on Mesa 25. I was having issues with Chronos: The New Dawn. I was having issues with Borderlands 4. I was having issues with Indiana Jones. And trying out the new Mesa driver on Bazite, all of that is fixed. It works perfectly. I get much better performance with my 9070 XT using ray tracing with this new driver, so when it comes to SteamOS, it's going to be awesome. But this will help both the Steam Machine, of course, and the Steam Deck, because so many games that are coming out these days have forced ray tracing. We're talking stuff like Doom Eternal. We're talking stuff like Indiana Jones. We're talking stuff like Star Wars Outlaws. All of these games have forced ray tracing that you cannot turn off, and that's a problem for the Steam Deck because it's a low-powered handheld. So getting better ray tracing performance in the overall graphics driver that it's using could be the difference between 25 FPS and 30 FPS in a lot of these games that are borderline, like right there on the fence. So unfortunately, we have to wait for Valve to test it and get it out into the wild, but because they used engineers to help get this tech going in the first place, I don't think it'll take as long as it has in the past. Like, do you remember how long we waited for SteamOS 3.5? That was in beta for like a year, and since then, they've been much faster with the SteamOS updates because, you know, they've got a desktop PC coming out. Would they be funding all this research if they didn't plan on releasing the Steam Machine? I don't think so. That would be a big waste of money, and they're not philanthropists, right? Like, it's cool that they funded, you know, Lepton and all this stuff and Proton and everything, but there was a goal there, and it was to make a good operating system with SteamOS, which they currently have. So my big summation of this video, everyone take a chill pill, enjoy your Steam Deck, enjoy your PS5, enjoy your Switch 2, enjoy your Xbox Series X, enjoy your Windows PC, just play more video games because they make time go faster, and then suddenly the Steam Machine will be out and all of this stuff will be behind us. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.